Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan. Inside the Birds is now entered the true offseason. I thought we did a pretty good job, Adam, last week of sort of straddling the line between looking ahead, but also respecting the fact that the Eagles were coming off a Super Bowl championship. And we had to cover that on so many different angles. So we did that in Inside the Birds, but we also did it with Q&A. We did it with Brian Dawkins on Gun on One, just talking about what the parade might be like and just how happy he was and the daily echoes and all of that. And the analytics. We got some good feedback on the Super Bowl recap from an analytics standpoint from Sam Finkel. So we thank him for that.
Yeah, it's actually two-parter. Yeah, it's great. We're doing a lot of two-part series, as we go forward here. It's kind of something you'll be seeing a lot of. We could put this out now. I'm going to do a mock draft series. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 parts because to break down each pick, you have to give intel on every pick. So I'll be doing that coming up. We'll start that soon. So that's something new we have not done before. So we're going to be adding new content for you. So looking forward to doing that. But yeah, the final Q&A last week, and also, that Greg Cosell, I know you and Greg did it. I was not available last week. The Inside the Tape show. I mean, it's fun. Obviously, they won, so people are happy. Yeah, it's just kind of funny. Like 500 great comments. One guy said he did not understand why. I don't think he even watched the show. One guy's like, "Well, why would you go back? Why would you go back and review a game that's already been played? Move on." I just it's really funny. Like he clearly didn't watch. Like what? It's like our friend Ruben Frank.
The one guy who said something like, "Why is it all of a sudden?" I guess he thinks sometimes like we're not respecting the Eagles. Why is it now that you're talking about the left side of the Kansas City?
Even listen to the pregame show.
Any of the pods, any of the Radio Row shows, any of the previews that we did. It was like a 2-week discussion of.
I know that was like the first. Me, you, and Greg all looked at that and go, the left side's going to be a problem. In fact, I thought we talked too much about it in the pregame show. Maybe not, apparently. I felt like there's sometimes when you want to point stuff out, you want to make sure everybody knows and understands and hears it, what the issues and challenges are. I just remember, I think we might have talked about it for like 8 to 10 minutes. I'm like, man, this is too long. We need to move on. Then it happened. Then the one Jamoke says something about it. I thought it was funny. People are funny when they're finding new inventive ways to complain because it's hard to complain with our content now. So you're like, okay, well, you guys shouldn't be looking back. Look forward. Like it's kind of funny, like coaching tape, right? You're trying to show people, not discuss it, but actually show you. Okay, sorry, buddy. It's all good, man. We needed it.
Yeah, you know the expression. You can't please everybody all the time, but 99.9% of the feedback we got on everything for the last 2 weeks has been great. So we really appreciate it. And let's sort of put this out here now. We don't have it. No, this is normally the time where we go to a Monday, Thursday Inside the Bird schedule, and then we build in some other shows around it. So just for the listeners to know, we're going to do a couple of different things. One, we're working on some programming that we're going to add for the offseason that we're just not ready yet to come forward with. But 2, what you're very likely going to see is now, and I think this has already started going back 2 weeks because we just started putting stuff like, let's get in. Like there's no Monday, Thursday Inside the Bird. You'll definitely get at least 2 Inside the Birds a week, but you might get 3, 4, or 5 Inside the Birds pods a week. And we're not giving you any less. We're just going to give more. But there may be a week where it's Monday through Thursday, but not Friday. But we're just going to give you as much Inside the Birds as we can give you.
Hey, it's year 8. We've learned a lot, folks. We really appreciate your support. You all deserve it. We want to give you as much as we can. For Patreon, you got some stuff coming. We'll be announcing soon. Pretty cool. But the bottom line is we're going to have more content. Andrew DeCecco is phenomenal. Andrew's with us. We'll have more analytics with Sam Finkel, and we'll have Greg Cosell back. We're working on a deal with Greg. As we speak here, we're talking to him. So about coming back very soon. And heck, I mean, we're starting contract shows the earliest we've ever done it. Why? Because the Eagles have some contract decisions coming up. And they also, and the other part about why we're doing these now instead of waiting until March or April is because we're going to explain to you why the Eagles are so great. It's not just Howie drafting the right players or signing the right free agents. It's about contract structure or how long these guys are signed for. That's the thing. The core of this roster is going to be here a long time. Most people, in fact, almost all teams don't do it the way that Howie does it, which, by the way, is the right way. I don't know why so many teams wait to sign guys early. They haven't learned. They don't. You always study in life, in a profession, the business that are very successful. Yeah, you got to do your own work, but see how they do it. There's a reason why the Eagles are the creme de la creme when it comes to running football operations.
Absolutely. And, it's a good time to do a contract show with free agency just a couple of weeks away, because as we look at some of the contracts, Adam, 3 weeks away, some of the decisions Eagles make will tie into what they already have under contract and where their depth is. So it's a good way to fold it in between. So this will be part one, and part two could come out Tuesday, it could come out Wednesday. We don't know, but part two will come out pretty soon. And then we'll have part one will focus on offense. And this particular episode will be quarterback, offensive line. Part two, we'll get into running back, tight end, wide receiver, pass catchers. And then really it's going to be a 4-part series, because part 3 and 4 will focus on the defense from the defensive front in that part. And then the last part will be the secondary. So from front to back, we'll have everything tied in and tied together. And of course, the Eagles have made some moves already with some guys on reserve future contracts that we'll get into as well. But really look forward to kind of diving in here. And you can tell, like, we've been doing this for a while, because this is sort of by demand. People have been emailing us and saying, hey, when's the contract?
Yeah.
So we're ready. We're ready to dive in.
Let's do it.
All right. So let's get into really quickly, and I believe Andrew DeCecco is going to have this even further covered this week on his daily DeCeccos. We're going to talk about some of these reserve future signings that the Eagles made literally a day after the Super Bowl parade. They were back to work and announced them. 13 players were signed to reserved futures deals. Now, Adam, wasn't one player already signed to a reserve futures deal while they were in the playoffs? That's why he wasn't on the 53 or practice squad, because they had.
I believe that it's correct, but I don't know the player. I remember us discussing it.
I think it might have been Nick Muse, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they might, yeah, and I think, well, I'm not sure actually. I don't know if that's right, but I know this. They did something that cut somebody, was signed to reserve future. I thought. Oh,
no, it was the tight end from the Niners with the he had like a Samoan type name. Wasn't that Cameron?
Oh, okay. Latu. Yeah, Latu, the fourth round, another 49ers draft pick. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't understand. That was kind of weird. I don't think I'm going to double check. I think he is. I thought they cut. Yeah, I think they cut him for some reason. I don't know why.
Really? I thought he was still part of.
Yeah, he's not on there. Yeah, I'm looking at my list here. Well, actually, hang on a second. Hang on. Well, okay. He is okay. He was the guy. You're correct. Cam Latu. All right. He was they only signed one guy. Now they have 14 guys on reserve/future. And by the way, they don't count against the roster now. They count on March 12th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Every roster now cannot be over 53 man. They don't count now. Yeah, you are correct. Right. He was signed to. Yeah, Nick Muse was not. Nick Muse just got signed. He's part of this group, which we'll go over in a minute. Right. But yeah, so yeah, you still cannot go over 53 man. But anyone you would sign for your offseason roster does not count until 4 p.m. Eastern on the 12th. And that's when it goes from 53 to 90. You could go to 90 man starting on March 12th.
This is like right before free agency when you hear about like a quarterback's going to get traded, but it can't officially process until the first day of the new league year. But it gets out there that it's been agreed. Yeah. So these players are they have their contracts will kick in, as Adam said, on March 12th at 4:00 p.m. So they're not technically on the roster yet, but they are because they've been announced by the team. Let's go through the offensive guys, Adam. A lot of familiar names here, starting with running back Ty Davis-Price. I think every single player that they signed was with the team at some point during the season on the practice squad, or even the 53. Like Ty Davis-Price was he on the 53 or was he elevated?
I think he might have been elevated briefly. Right. As I look at it, yes, he was activated for week 17. Correct. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, but he was activated onto the 53.
Yes, he was activated. He was activated for a game. He was on the practice squad and activated for that game. and
I'm
whoever
just
they played
making
in week
sure
17.
our semantics, not elevated, but active, meaning they signed him.
That's what the language says here. So I guess.
I think you're right. I think that's correct.
But anyway, bottom line, he was on the roster for a game. All right, here we go. Let's go through the offense. Danny Gray, another 49er, third-round pick, third or fourth, I don't remember, whatever he was, out of SMU. We know he could run. Elijah Cooks this is the guy that I really want to see because he's a guy I know. Talking to the Jaguars, they try to develop him, and there was a difference of opinion with like kind of what they thought he could be. Big guy out of San Jose State, like 6'4". Nick Musa, you mentioned. Lekin Vakalahi, who was with them last year, was he an international player?
He was an international player, yes.
Okay. Defensively, Gabe Hall, who they gave a ton of practice squad money to, he's back, still trying to develop him. Two edge rushers, O'Shawn Mathis, formerly of the Rams, and KJ Henry, formerly of the Commandos. Dallas Gann, who's a very small inside backer out of Toledo. I believe that's where he went to school, if I'm not mistaken. He's like 220. He's like today's linebacker, 6'1", 220. That's what they are. Another 49er, Tariq Castor-Field from your school, Penn State. Perry Nickerson, who played for Fangio with Miami. AJ Woods out of Pitt. And Andre Sam is back, formerly of out of LSU, who the Eagles kind of like his potential fourth safety.
Yeah. So of these names, Adam, the one you said, Elijah Cooks, I think Danny Gray also is a guy that we're going to talk about. Yeah, he can run. And with the Eagles wide receiver situation, we know that the first three are all locked into contracts, which is obviously A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and one more year of Jahan Dotson. But when you get to 4 and 5, yes, they drafted Johnny Wilson. They drafted Anais Smith. So those guys as draft picks will get a little bit of a lead candidate for those two. But Danny Gray can run in a way those other two I mentioned cannot. And if he can punt return, maybe he becomes that last guy and you don't have Britton Covey. We'll see. I just think that there's with his speed and the fact that he was a third round pick once, he'll be an interesting guy to watch when it comes to OTAs and then later in training camp. How about on defense? You mentioned Andre Sam and Gabe Hall. I feel like those are two guys that we're going to be on. As far as, do they have a shot? Are they just a camp body or do they have a shot to make a 53? Gabe Hall is a defensive tackle. And if the Eagles don't re-sign Milton Williams, there's a spot for defensive tackle there.
Oh, yeah, because Byron Young's certainly no lock. They claim him off waivers from the Raiders, but they take a look at him. So right now under contract at D tackle, you got Davis, you got Carter, you got Booker and Young, and then they're going to have Gabe Hall. So, yeah, you need at least 5 guys in training camps. And then, of course, Ojomo, he's definitely a D tackle, but the way they use him is he's more of a 3 technique and just to get upfield. Byron Young is an interesting player. So actually, I guess you could say they have 6 under contract now. Once the other contract becomes live on March 12th, they'll have 6. So that's enough. You need to have 6 going to training camp as a minimum, with injuries and so forth and preseason games. So that's good. We'll see what happens. Like you said, with Milton Williams, we'll see. I know a lot of people are pessimistic because of the price tag that could be, but you never know. You never know. Free agencies are it's wild, man. Free agency, when things look obvious or not so obvious, because you never know who's involved. You never know who's going to come out of the woodwork and make an offer.
100%. Absolutely. And, Andre Sam, I just mentioned because he was, they like him. He was with the team on the practice squad all year. I think he got elevated for the season finale. I think he was an elevation along with somebody else. So he's another guy. You don't know what's going to happen with this defensive backfield for the Eagles, with Slay in particular, and with Avonte Maddox probably not likely to be back. You could see two bodies, right? 2 openings in the secondary to compete for. So Andre Sam, a name to watch from that standpoint.
Yep.
So those are the futures deals. Let's get into the quarterback and the offensive line contracts and get into the whole situation. First, let's pause and hear a word from our great friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, and you got to go to see our friends at Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, PA. Trust me, you need to get the best car buying experience out there, and Sky Motor Cars can provide it. They're great staff, customer friendly, great inventory. So check them out at SkyMotorCars.com or head it over there to Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, PA, and tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal. All right, let's start with the quarterback and go through the contract situation, Adam. And we have complete, if you want the whole structure, because there's a lot of clauses, a lot of this, and a lot of that, become a Patreon member, because Adam does a great job putting everything up on the Patreon main screen for all of our great Patreon members. That's patreon.com/InsideTheBirds. So that's just a part of the bonus content that you get on top of all the great shows, extra shows that we have to offer.
Yeah, that'll be later
with
this week. Real quick, that'll be later this week. Like Thursday or Friday, we'll do like a position per day with complete stuff you won't see on the contract sites that are out there. We have stuff that's not out there. So
it's great when you do it during free agency too. I know you put the contracts when you get them from free agency.
Yeah.
That's always
yeah. I mean, we got pretty good socials in that. So yeah, all right. So with Hurts, see what the Eagles were smart. They went to him early. They made a really good bet. They knew he was their guy. He loved being here, and they did a structure which they got the average. They got a major break on average per year. Hurts and his agent Nicole Lynn got good structure where money guarantees in advance. This is called an advance guarantee, where like if he's on the roster this March, next year's base salary becomes fully guaranteed. That's called an advance guarantee. I mentioned this a couple of years ago. The first time I ever saw it, and my hair went on fire, is Bus Cook, the agent for Jay Cutler when he was with the Bears. I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years ago. I can't remember what year it was. I was like, what the hell? I had to call a contract guy. I'm like, can you explain this to me? Why the hell would the Bears do something like this? But hey, you know what? You get what you negotiate, they say. So now every veteran contract at a bare minimum has this advantage for the agent, because they got to get something in return for doing deals early or giving the club a break on the average per season. So so with Jalen, he signed through 2028. Part of his 26 money becomes fully guaranteed in March. But I love the void years. And I didn't see it. Someone told me someone put out a stat or some number. I have access to this. I should just do it my own. Something like the Eagles have over 300 void years with all their contracts.
That's incredible.
I don't doubt it. It sounds reasonable. So Jalen's void years go through 2035.
Jalen Hurts Jr. is going to be in the league by then.
Exactly. Now, what it is I think what happens there, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty certain the way this would work. If every option in his contract is rolled over for proration purposes, the void years would go through, because void years don't have a base salary. It's proration. It's done to help with salary cap. So anyway, that's Hurts' deal. So he's going to be here a long time. And just looking for people who always want to know, because they ask us a lot, like, well, what can they get out of his contract if they wanted to down the line? They pretty much, by structure, are locked in through 2026. And then now they would have to eat a decent amount of dead money if they traded or cut it. And obviously they've never cut him, but if they wanted to trade him after the 26th season, they would take on a decent amount of dead money, but they can get out of it. But it would be painful. It would be painful. He's their guy, so they're set there. Now, Kenny Pickett, who did not have his 5th-year option picked up, he's got a very team-friendly number 2 quarterback number of $2.623 million fully guaranteed. That's it. And then Tanner McKee, man, you know what's funny? The word is out on him. So many teams know about him. His preseason tape's obviously been very intriguing. You saw that. Was it the tape against the Giants? Was it that the game? The first half was really good.
Yeah.
Second half wasn't great, but first half of that game was great. Yeah. So he's still signed through. He's got 2 years left. This year, $1.03 million. The following year after that, $1.145 million. No guaranteed money. He's a guy that like every team knows about now. When you see a kid throw the ball like this, spin it like he can, and he's got size, and his mobility is better than you think. Certainly, it's better than I thought it was. to begin with when I saw him as a rookie, where it looked like a statue. The kid's got a lot of talent, man. This I know he's older. I know he had the Mormon mission. What did my lot call him? The Mormon missile?
Mormon missile. Yeah.
I love that one. Yeah, it's my favorite. So that's where it's at. So they're in pretty good shape here with quarterback contracts.
They're in like really, really good shape. The Pickett deal is going to wind up being excellent because, ever since they moved on from Nick Foles as their backup when they had Carson, they've made it their mission to have a good backup quarterback. And when I say, let me just make that clear, a good backup quarterback. I'm not trying to inflate Kenny Pickett's talent or value, but for not a lot of money, right? That was a lot of the reason why they drafted Jalen Hurts. They saw something in him. They picked him in the second round. They knew cost controlled. And at the time, they felt if he needed to step in and, win you games, he could play at a good level and be cost efficient. Remember, they were spending a lot of money earlier, about 5, 6, 7 years ago, when from Chase Daniel to then Nick Foles on backup quarterback. And now their whole goal has been, can we get a good enough backup quarterback to step in and win games and have a little bit of a moxie to him? And Pickett has a winning record in the NFL, and his base salary is $2.6 million. That's great. That's the opposite of trying to have to pay whatever they paid Nick Foles that year. I forget what it was. Almost like, wasn't it like it was something ridiculous, 7 to 10 million, or maybe even more.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
Chase Daniel got. I mean, I give the agent credit.
Like 9,
oh God,
right?
it was ridiculous. It was. Here's why. Okay, here's what happened. Peterson wanted Chase Daniel badly because he knew the scheme that they're going to run at the spread West Coast, and that was like his first free agent. What's that?
Remember, they didn't have Carson Wentz at the time. They had no quarterback that they other than
correct. It was 2016. Yep. He wanted to it sounds no offense to Chase, but he wanted him because he knew the scheme. I get that. Like when I'm sure Kellen Moore's going to he runs his offense. He's going to want some quarterback. That's why once Dustmeyer was going to interview this week for the OC job. We talked about this like 6 weeks ago. Like this is going to happen. Now, but we'll see. You never know what he's got to interview. He's going to interview a bunch of coaches, so we'll see. But when you look at this situation with a head coach, they always want their guys. They want their coaches that know the scheme, and they want the quarterback who knows the scheme. It could be. It's like. Who is the? Oh God, there's another like. Who is the guy? Will Greer. Will Greer. That's why Will Greer was here. Exactly the reason why. Probably going to be a coach someday.
There you go. Now you bring up a really good point with Kellen Moore off in New Orleans, and head coaches, like you said, they like to get guys familiar with their scheme and what they do. Well, I'm trying to think of available quarterbacks that, when I say available, maybe you by trade, not necessarily for agency, is Kenny Pickett somebody he might want to take along with him? Or does he want to talk to Howie about some trade involving Tanner McKee? Sure, Howie would listen to it, but we also know that the Eagles, by the next training camp, really this coming OTA's next training camp, are either going to make a decision on whether McKee's going to be their backup or not. So, because it's going to enter year 3 for him. So they have this ability to have Pickett number 2 and McKee number 3, but we don't know really whether they want McKee to be number 2 and feel if he's ready for that. I have a feeling that they think he's ready for that because we know they.
I do. I think.
We know they like him. So that becomes to me something to watch. Does Pickett command any attention? Does McKee can't command any attention from Kellen Moore? Because the only other guys he's worked with are, Dak and Justin, and they're not going anywhere. Herbert, but the backups there are Eason Stick and Cooper Rush. I don't know that he's going to be in some kind of hurry to try to bring those guys in, Kellen Moore, but Pickett or McKee. I mean, they have Derek Carr, right? They have to kind of make a decision on him.
They do. They have a decision to make on his contract. The state of quarterback play is so bad, and it's funny because Kellen, I don't know if he knows Derek Carr, and I don't know how much homework he's done on Derek Carr. Derek Carr's not the easiest guy to coach, So we've called him Captain Checkdown. This is the knock on him from NFL people is that he sometimes can be risk averse, won't take the plays that are there. He's got a ton of talent. It's just doesn't always get the most out of it. Now, Derek Carr, speaking of contracts, is owed $40 million. $30 million base salary becomes fully guaranteed on March 17th, and he's got a $10 million roster bonus, which was fully guaranteed last year. So they even if they cut him, they owe him $10 million. But once again, they're in terrible cap shape. Every year they're in bad cap shape. They're the team that refuses to cut players, and eventually they have to cut players. Like at some point, the credit card spending becomes due, and they can't. Some year it comes, and they cut a couple guys, and they go 2 or 3 years without cutting anyone. Eagles never have cap problems. Like they don't cut. By the way, it's extremely rare in today's NFL you have to cut a player for cap problems. It's always wrong when the bloggers will say, "Oh, he was cut for cap purposes." When it's not this team, I'm talking about other teams.
Right.
Well, they must have cut him for cap purposes without having any idea why the guy was cut. No, the guy's not very good. That's why they cut the player. It's almost
exactly.
That's the reason. If they don't think the player can help them, they cut the guy. That's the way it works.
Who's the last player you remember being a true cap casualty? I think like DeMarcus Ware in Dallas, but that's really long ago. I'm sure there was somebody after them, but that's an example of a guy who was a good player, but Dallas really screwed up its bookkeeping and couldn't keep him.
That you just hit on it. It's clubs tell you what they think of players by cutting them. They don't think they're not going to cut a player who they think could still help them. They're just not going to do that. Unless with an asterisk, if you're so far against it, the cap, and you need cooperation from veteran players, and they say, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not restructuring for you, or I'm not taking a pay cut, then you got to do something you don't want to do. Now, I remember talking to Joe Banner about this. Like any player you approach with a pay cut, you have to be willing to cut him if he says no. That's the game that you play. If you ask a guy to take a pay cut, particularly if you want the guy back, but you feel that, you know what, he's not the same player. We can't justify. We think he's worth $10 million, and he wants his full $20 million. Well, you're not doing that. Like Josh Sweat, based on last season, Josh Sweat was not coming back with that $19 million in cash. He got cut down to $9.5 million, and he accepted it. And to his credit, he crushed it this season. Good for him, you know. But it's Josh Sweat was good enough to bring back, but you couldn't justify it's cash justification. No way you could justify that salary from last season.
Yeah, especially coming off the decline. And obviously that's why they say go test the market. If you can go get yourself a better deal, then we'll either match it or wish you the best of luck. So clearly there wasn't a great deal out there for Josh Sweat, but there probably will be this offseason because he bounced back very strong. It'll be interesting to see what he gets. Let's go into the offensive line now. Move on from quarterback. The big question is going to be, obviously their free agent is Mekhi Becton. Now the Eagles have had Tyler Steen waiting for a couple of years now, and he's played well when he's been in. Fred Johnson, also a free agent who could depart. But the rest of their line, Adam, pretty locked up. And I think the only question mark you have, and I don't know if he said anything, maybe you've heard, has Lane Johnson made a commitment to next year one way or another yet?
Yeah, he's
coming back, right?
Oh, yeah,
okay, just making sure. He hasn't said he's not coming back. That's the key.
Yeah, he's definitely coming back. I could tell you as a fact he's coming back.
Great. Awesome. Okay, so then really 4 of the 5 are well linked up here.
Yeah. Now with Lane, they're going to have it. It's kind of like with Kelsey. We outlined this, 2 or 3 times because the way that the structure was like, the way they did it is if he wanted to keep playing, he'd have to get his deal redone. He did that 2 or 3 straight years. So with Lane, if he wants to play when he's 37 years old in 2027, he's going to have to get another deal. They're going to have to redo his deal. He's got a dummy year in 2027, and based on structure, it triggers different money. So they would have to redo it. So we'll see. But we're expecting him to play this year. Lane's got an option bonus of just under $19 million due. I don't know the date of it. Eagles don't always do them in March. They've had some due in August before, right before the season starts. But Lane's got $20 million in total cash coming this season, not guaranteed, by the way. So we'll see if they redo his deal, try to create some cap space if they need it. They might, depending on what happens with Milton Williams in particular. So that's
Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson has no guaranteed money left on his contract?
No.
Is that what you said?
Yep.
Wow, correct. That's really interesting. That's very interesting. Normally a guy doesn't, especially of his stature, even allow himself to get this far. But he's always had a good relationship. For the most part. There were a few hiccups with Howie, but they've been pretty good for the last few years. They'll get this thing worked out.
Sure. I mean, what happened was he signed an extension in March of 24, so 2 years ago, and
Right.
he got a lot of that money in the first 2 years. The guarantees were paid in the first 2 years, basically signing bonus, and I'm looking here. Yeah, pretty much the first 2 years is when he got his guaranteed money. So that's kind of where they're at. It would not surprise me if they try to have his contract adjusted just to have peace of mind. He is 35 years old. Wow, he turns 35. Excuse me, in June. Ooh, man, this time's flown. Holy smokes! So that's Lane. Yeah.
He's another guy who may be up for something because of his financial situation. Go ahead.
Yeah, so he's signed through 2028. Now, the fully guaranteed money in his contract runs out after the season. It would not surprise me because he his best season as a professional this year. He signed a 3-year extension in April of last year. I could certainly see, and I know his agency has a good relationship with the Eagles, I could certainly see them go, for the this season. They don't have to do anything because all the cash is fully guaranteed of just over 19 million. But I could certainly see him getting his deal redone after this season. So yeah, and he is also signed. Boy, they have a number of players that are signed through 2028. Like a lot of them, almost everyone, and any veteran, any extension they've done is at least through 2027, and a bunch of them through 2028.
Mm-hmm. What's his cap number this year, Mailata?
Mailata's is pretty reasonable. It is 2025, 15.2 million.
Okay, so I mean, yeah, I wouldn't see any impetus for Howie then to give him an extension now to cut, before next year, because next year is when he would, like you said, the guaranteed money's up, so you want to do it. If you could do it now and lower his cap, it all just depends on, do you need the cap space this year for something?
Right. And by the way, his cap, what's that?
Like for free agency, Milton Williams-Bond, or just extra.
Right. Money? I don't think they would. Yeah, they wouldn't. I don't know if they'd be doing it now, but after 1 year. But I'll tell you this: his cap number. Holy smokes! I remember we've done this in years past. We just like to look at future cap numbers. Mailata's cap number in 2026 is 19.4. It balloons to 41 million in 2027. So yeah, obviously they're not gonna. He's not gonna play on that. So they'll redo it, and even goes higher in 2028. So they're gonna have to do some work on some of these contracts after the 26 season.
Yep, and you heard how he mentioned this, by the way. He did say he had a meeting with some of the beat writers right at the end of the year. Andrew Duchek was among that. And there was a quote about, we can't just do, last offseason was good. They can't do everything the same going forward. And it's because of these contracts. And in fact, our Patreon members already know this, because even Joe Banner, who knows their contract situation very well, said that there would be some hurdles on the horizon. Nothing that can't be figured out, but you just can't just buy anybody that you want. You're going to have to be really judicious with your contracts going forward.
Yep,
that was a good episode with Joe. He was really good on that.
That was great. Yeah, because he started to notice, because the Eagles are the kings of option bonuses. They put in every veteran extension, and by the third year, that cap number, sometimes it's fourth, but a lot of them are the third year cap number goes up, and then the fourth year explodes, and that's coming due. And as I look at it, some in 26, a lot in 27, and a ton of them in 28. So they have to be careful of how they do this. So it's all strategic. So we talk about Mailata.
Yeah, Mailata and Johnson. No, there's like 3 guys on the team that I think are possible long-term extension guys because their third year is up. One of them is the next guy, Cam Jurgens. He is now 3 years into a 4-year deal. Just had a really good season, replacing Jason Kelce.
Yeah, that's year 4. You mean? Yeah, this is the final year of his deal.
Yeah, I said he played 3 years of his 4-year deal.
Okay, yeah. He enters
year 4. You're eligible for your first extension, and correct. I would imagine, just based on the history of the organization, the value that they put in the offensive line, and the fact that Cam has proven himself to be a pretty good player, that he would be priority number 1 for long-term extension this year.
Yeah, when I'm looking at all the deals, because if you look at their offense, right? Hurts signed long term, AJ, Devontae Smith, Lane Johnson, Mailata, Dickerson. We'll talk about in a minute. The only guy they could really extend right now, or they would want to extend, it would be the aforementioned Cam Jurgens. Yeah, I mean, I
on offense,
based
offense.
Yep,
Just on offense.
Based on
correct.
What's that?
I was just saying on offense because on defense there's a couple of guys I think that.
Yes, but just on offense, there's no one else left. So it would be Jurgens, and their history shows it's extremely rare. It's typically like if the guy's like hasn't been as good as they thought he would be, they'll wait. That rarely happens. Either it's so obvious that it's not even a discussion, or they might wait a little bit. But with Jurgens, I'd be stunned if they waited. In fact, if I'm Jurgens, I'm not playing on 1.646 million. What? No. I'm just not.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, there's no reason for either side to want to wait. Like, there's nothing left to see. I mean,
right.
You want to get the guy locked up, but his price tag doesn't get into free agency next year because he will be. Obviously, you see offensive line contracts; they're huge, they're enormous, even for guys that aren't that great. Remember what we talked about? What did Jonah Jackson get from the Rams in the offseason?
When he got
it was
benched.
Like $50 million a year. Yeah, and he had $50 million a year. He got more than Saquon Barkley.
Let me see. Hang on. That was Joe Banner's point about giving Barkley that huge deal. He goes. Think of it this way: it's like a good guard, and by the way, a good guard gets more than Barkley. On your point, really good point you made. So, Jonah Jackson, $17 million a year, and he got benched.
Yeah. So that's really interesting because is that the market now for the interior? Does Cam Jurgens' agent go to Howie and say this thing better be 17 million or north a year? What is?
I don't want that. No, wrong. I want Creed Humphrey's deal. I want 18 million.
That's what I just said. What does Creed Humphrey make? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. No, that would be. You're right in Jonah Jackson. That would be the floor. I want to beat Creed Humphrey at 18 million. Now, the argument would be, hold on there. Creed Humphrey's been a great player since year one. Jurgens has had one good season.
Right.
Like, that's the leverage. If you're the Eagles, you go, wait a minute, I hear you on that, but you got to give me at least 2 good years, and then we'll do it.
I agree. I think there's a happy medium, right? There's got to be a happy medium. Like, the Eagles might say, we're not going to give you 20, or we'll make you prove that you can stay healthy. But would you take 18.5 a year? I would think that they'll get something done here.
Oh, yeah, I don't doubt that. I'm just saying, what's the comp? Because the Creed Humphrey, I believe, is the highest paid center at 18.
Yeah, what does Ragnow make? Do you have Ragnow?
Yeah, I do. I'll tell you in 5 seconds. Ragnow got – oh, well, his deal's outdated. It was done years ago at $13.71 million. It was done in 2021.
Got it.
By the way, Linderbaum's going to get his extension done. That has to get done. Tyler Linderbaum's phenomenal.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he'll get his deal done. Who else?
Who else at center? Who might be the second? Do you have who the second highest paid center?
I don't. I didn't. Yeah, I haven't done the comps yet because it's doesn't have to be done now. Well, Creed Humphrey was the highest paid center. So what's that?
Yeah, either way, we're looking at something in that 17 to 22 range. I mean, that's
17 to 20. I would say 20.
17 to 20. Yeah. Well, I just didn't know if Linderbaum signs and he gets 20 plus, like if they add to it now, if he becomes 23, you just never know how this stuff works out. So
plus, and Linderbaum was a first round pick. Remember that the Ravens have a 5th-year option. They don't have to do it. Like, the Eagles don't care about 5th-year options. They're like, if we like the player, we're not waiting. We're getting this. We want the discount. But we'll give him money up front. You put money in the guy's pocket. You know how this is. They don't change. I mean, Howie's done it the same way Joe Banner did it. Joe's idea. And it's funny because the NFLPA had enough of that, and they called the Joe Banner rule. We're done with doing extensions after 2 years. And Michael Lewis bucked the trend. He turned them down, shocked them, and went to the Niners and took a big free agent deal.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. It seems like that Creed Humphrey deal was like the biggest for a center in quite a while. Because, like you said, Ragnow is at, I forget what you said. It was at 12.5, 13.5 a year.
13 change. Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like Linderbaum and Jurgens and the agents representing them say, hey, look, we got to be closer to what Creed's making because this center market's not great. And but our clients are really good. Like they may be a notch below Creed, but they're still going to be, they'd be wanted in free agency and they would make a lot of money in free agency. So you're going to have to grease the wheel a little bit there. But that's why you do it after 3 years, because you try to get it to more of a team-friendly deal that makes sense for both sides. So we'll see what happens there. It'll get done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'd be shocked if nothing got done.
I would be totally agreeing. And they have an excellent relationship with the agency. That agency he's with now with Excel was Rep One. And they're with Excel, and I totally agree with you there.
Now, last but not least is Dickerson, the left guard. He signed through 2020. He just got the deal we're talking about, Cam Jurgens. Well, Dickerson got his last year at this time, basically. So he's locked in for quite a bit.
Yeah, he is signed through 2028. And typical, although, let me see the cap numbers. Oh, boy. God, it's unbelievable.
Oh, my gosh. I just looked at his 2027 number. My
yeah,
gosh.
It goes from 10.25 million in 26 to 32.578 million. It's the proration of a signing bonus added with a monster, a $18.6 million option bonus. Yeah, it's all married together. Yeah, there's a lot of going on here. Yeah, so that's what I meant. I said earlier, the 27, 28 are huge cap years with cap numbers going up with these extensions, with option bonus and so forth. And they got it. Yeah, it won't be easy, but it's not like they didn't know it. They did these deals, so they know that's coming. So that's where they're at here. But look,
think about the future here, Adam. You can't have all 5 linemen making top $3 to $5 realistically. You just can't, right? Right now, the Eagles sort of can because Cam is on a rookie deal and because Becton was a 1-year guy. So the key here is sort of you can extend Jurgens for market value while you have Mailata and Dickerson making money. But at some point, if Lane wants to play more than – if Lane says, I want to play more than 1 year and they have to redo the deal, then they have a tough decision to make because, your next right guard, it would help to be Steen because he'd be on a rookie deal. Yep. But then you'd have 4 of your 5 sort of making top dollar. That's difficult, especially when those 2 years from now, when that money starts to go real high. I think the Eagles are sort of banking on Lane only playing 1 more year, and then going into 2027, they would have Steen and whoever's right tackle could be a rookie, not in top 3, top 5 type money. So there's a lot that they're going to have to figure out here.
Yeah, it's the great challenge when you draft and develop really well. This is what happens to all good players. Now, Steen had some snaps coming off the bench weren't particularly good, as I understand it. More good than not so good. But he's a developmental player. He needs snaps in the offseason. I'd be surprised if Becton was back. Not that they wouldn't want him back, but you just talked about it. At some point, you just cannot pay everybody. You just can't.
Right. No, I absolutely think that they're going to have to be prepared for life after Becton, and that answer is either Steen they're going to draft a couple of linemen. They drafted Keegan last year, so he'll have a year of development. Although that's a little bit of a long shot, but I'm just giving guys who are on the roster. They have Darian Kennard, who signed through this coming season, right? They got him off the Chiefs practice squad last year. They've developed him for a year. He'll be in the competition. They certainly played him a lot in the preseason, like every snap for 2 games.
Every snap.
And they played him against the Giants. So there's something there. And then, of course, Keegan, the kid that they drafted, he signed for 3 more years. So, and then they'll add to that. Of course, they'll add to that. And that's going to do it. That is their quarter. It's not until I already knew they had these high-priced guys on the offensive line, but I didn't really think about it until we start doing the show that the conundrum it now creates to have Jurgens get an extension that he deserves. That's going to pay him top 3, top 5 center money. And then added that to Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, and Landon Dickerson. That's very, very difficult. So Howie certainly has his work cut out for him on that one.
Yeah, Jurgens could, we'll see how that goes. If he wants more than Humphrey, we'll have to see. But you got Mailata in the next couple of years. They're going to have to. He deserves it. He had a great year. Jurgens, you mentioned Dickerson is he's good to go. And then the other free agent, by the way, as we get out of this, as we move on here is it's Becton and Fred Johnson, who, by the way, is a really nice story. It's their top backup left and right tackle.
Yep. Something tells me Fred will get some decent backup money, and they may have to use Darian Kennard now going forward as their next Fred Johnson. Or maybe they get another discount on a free agent like Fred, who is out there for not much money, and Stoutland can do his magic.
You know what? And we'll talk. We don't do draft until we're done through free agency. Usually third week of March, we start turning the page to the draft solely. But that's where Lane's replacement could be drafted. They're set up so well. Howie could just decide, when you're picking 32nd, unless they trade up, if the best players are right tackle, that's what you take. That's where you go.
Yeah, this draft will be fun. We'll be like, it's either an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, most likely, and then I don't even know if there'd be any other consideration the way they're built right now. So offensive line, defensive line, which is basically every single Eagles draft.
Tight end. You never know.
It could be. Yeah. We'll get into the pass catchers in the next episode because there's some interesting conversations to be had on that side of the ball. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation.